It's Chicago. It's 1936, and Jimmy the Rhino just unloaded his Tommy gun on that coppa's car. That's how many plot holes there are in the show.
Too much energy.
Hooray! You're Silverbolt.
These upgrades come with a warranty.
Blah 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 blah. Beast Wars once and for all.
Cheetor, what have you done?
I am giving this episode no energon.
What
Yeah.
are you, a Quintesson?
This is no energon. Fuck it. I can't.
Sigma balls, Gary. No, not that.
Good evening, Sound Blasters. Welcome to episode 87 of Too Much Energon, the podcast where we talk about Beast Wars shit and talk shit about Beast Wars, and now indeed other things as well. Coming to you live from a mysterious floating mountain somewhere hidden on planet Energon, I'm the Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm NeoCal, your other host.
What's going on, Cal?
Oh, just potential things breaking and then fixing themselves. The usual for us professional podcasters.
Legitimate journalism over here.
Yeah, we both had weird hardware things that pop up.
Popping literally in my case. Listeners, I don't know if you've noticed over the past few episodes, but there's been a weird popping issue going on with my audio.
And we try to fix it.
I've tried many things to fix it. I even formatted my NVMe drive on my computer and reinstalled Windows, hoping it was a software issue. And lo and behold, that didn't work. So then I was going to just buy an entirely new microphone. But then I'm like, hold on, I'm going to try replacing the USB cable first. And now the problem there is, despite the fact that my $200 microphone is only 2 years old, it uses USB to mini USB, which is going back in time. You remember the
Same. Why are microphones? It's like, ooh, it's ahead of, look how nice this is. It's great. USB to mini USB, all of them, and it's like, really?
Yeah. Listeners, if you're not sure exactly what mini USB is, remember PlayStation 3, the PS3, the USB cable that you had to use to plug the PS3 controller in. I'm talking. This is before USB-C. This is before mini USB. This is before micro USB. This is mini.
Right.
Yeah. This is mini USB.
The least popular of all the USB sizes.
So we're talking USB tech that was widely in use in 2006. My 2020 microphone, the HyperX Quadcast, uses mini USB. I have no fucking idea why. So I went to Best Buy, and despite their website saying that they actually had a mini USB cable, mini USB B, mini B, whatever.
The mini B.
Mini B. Despite their website,
That sounds like a transformer, like a smaller little yellow car that doesn't talk, and it just goes beep beep. And it's
Right.
called Mini B.
It's like Bumblebee's Minicon.
Yeah, that's exactly.
There we go. We're referencing Transformers Armada now.
We did it.
20th anniversary of that show is actually coming up pretty soon.
Oh wow.
Maybe we'll talk about an episode of that sometime.
Sometime.
Funny enough, Optimus Prime is voiced by our boy Gary, and Megatron is voiced by David Kaye in that show. In the English dub of that show.
Yeah.
It's a Japanese cartoon. But it's funny, they carried on the Optimus and Megatron conflict across multiple shows and multiple universes.
They did it.
They did it. The son of a bitches did it.
They never asked if they should. They were The sons of bitches just focused on if they could.
Exactly. Anyway, so despite Best Buy's website saying that they had this cable, this ancient cable in stock, I go to the store and the guy's like, yeah, we don't carry anything like that. And I showed him on the website that it said it was in stock, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know why it says that. We don't have it. We have an adapter here." And he shows me this adapter, and I'm like, I don't really want to use an adapter for something like capturing audio, microphone audio. I'm like, I feel like there's going to be some signal degradation, degradation, whatever,
Degradation.
degradation.
The base word is degrade, right?
Right.
Or
Uh,
digitization.
the great gazoo.
The great degradation. The
Uh,
150-year Transformers war that made them from big chunky dudes that guzzle energon to small little things that transform into animals or something like that. There we go. That's the
that's
denigration. Wait, that's a Star Trunk.
Star Trunk, the last denigration.
See, we come full circle to our own jokes. Jokes that are originally made because we can't pronounce something.
I know we've just degraded into like self-referential humor at this point.
Yeah,
We're like Family Guy,
accept it. Yeah, we're like Family Guy,
except kind of funny sometimes.
except kind of funny. Yeah, we don't have a talking dog.
Yeah, not yet. Although I'm dealing with dogs that I wish would shut the fuck up most of the time in my current living situation.
Weird, almost on cue. There were dogs barking outside. Open the window. Hey, some of us don't have jobs and have podcasts to get to. Do you mind?
I'm kicking my ass. Do you mind?
Little liar reference.
Yeah.
For those of you 90-year-olds listening to this.
Hey, that movie was from the 90s. We talk about
I
90s
know.
shit.
Oh, I meant 90s year olds. There we go.
90s year
That's
olds.
what I meant.
There we go. Because we're old, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're listening to us, chances are you probably are too. I've seen
that one person who, like, you know who you are, who like was born like post 90s and watched all the shows we're talking about, despite the fact they came out 10-15 years before you were born.
Right. I do know some people like that.
Yeah, they exist.
But I've seen the age demographics of our listeners, because I get access to that kind of data when you're a professional podcaster like myself.
That's right. Collect that data. Sell it to the commies.
And the age ranges from our listenership is, like, I think squarely from 24 to 45. And I'm like, yeah,
Seems
that
legit.
tracks. That tracks. Anyway, speaking of tracking, actually, just before that, so to finish my my story about the microphone shenanigans. So I made a snap decision when I was at Best Buy. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna buy a new mic. So that's what I did.
And here we are.
And here
Born
we are,
to be podcasters.
born to be podcasters. I bought the cheaper. I
felt
I
dirty
mentioned
saying that.
I used to I mentioned I used to have the HyperX Quadcast. There's a newer version of it. I think it's called the HyperX Quadcast X or something stupid like that.
Following Xbox's naming protocols.
Right. But I didn't really want to spend over $200 on that at that moment in time, because I wasn't even sure if replacing the mic altogether was going to work. So I'm like,
And
you know
it was
what?
a matter of time with you. Like, that mic could be fine. You just need to order that mini USB off Amazon or something.
Right. So what I ended up doing was spending like $60 on the HyperX Solo Cast, which is what I'm recording with right now.
Seems legit to me.
Yeah, so hopefully it sounds great. And one of the reasons why I originally bought the HyperX Quadcast is because it has multiple settings and because it can capture full room audio.
Mm.
The solo cast can't, but given my current living situation, there's really well, it's not really feasible for me to record a big like group podcast like we've done a couple of times for special episodes in the
Cats
past.
and dogs and the Predacon base not welcome.
Yeah, human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. That's my life
That's
right
not
now.
far off
No, it's
what's
not.
going on
It
in
really
Siege
isn't.
Land there.
No, it's mass hysteria in Siege Town. Anyway, this is episode 87 of Too Much Energon, and this week we're talking about War for Cybertron Siege, Chapter 5. And
Number
well,
5.
the episode opens up with Soundwave doing some science.
Yeah, Soundwave does the science too, by the way. It's not just Shockwave.
Yeah, it's not just Shockwave. I believe this is the first time we've seen Soundwave do a science, though. We've seen him do some communications before.
Yeah, he's great at reconnaissance and communications and tech, right? But now he's got an Iron Man kind of like thing going on here.
Yeah, he's putting that communications degree to good use right now.
Well, somebody has to.
Somebody has to on Cybertron, damn it.
We've said this before, but like, or maybe we haven't, but like that whole like, what would Megatron do without Soundwave?
Right.
This is the episode where you realize Soundwave is like the good angel on Megatron's shoulder,
Yeah.
and Shockwave is the devil on his other shoulder.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he can choose to listen to either, but unfortunately he listens to one over the other, and it's the wrong choice.
It's the wrong choice. This is the episode where Megatron truly doubles down on being a bad guy.
Yeah, before I could jive with him, and I think the last moment where I was like, never mind, maybe I don't jive with him, was when he cold-blooded murdered Magnus.
Yeah.
And what is he doing now? He's like shutting off the power and communications grid for the entire planet.
So what Soundwave figures out is he detects the Alpha Trion protocol. Basically, he's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's this really hype Autobot code spreading through the Autobots network, and
It's like piggybacking off of core planet processors, looking for something or programming something.
right, and yeah, so he's like, it's spreading all around, and well, it ain't good, and it's really powerful.
And indeed, Megatron's like, for fuck's sakes, this is like Alpha Trion bullshit.
And so Shockwave is like, haha, but Megatron, I've developed a virus that can spread through the Autobot network and destroy all of their code. And Megatron's like, so
That's good.
That's
but
good.
Then Soundwave is like, but then we don't have access to that infrastructure. That's
Yeah.
bad. And then Shockwave is like, but we'll stop the Autobots. That's good. And Soundwave is like, this could cripple us.
Yeah.
That's bad.
that's basically the gist of what's going on here. And
It's
Megatron
back and forth there.
and Megatron's like, fuck it, let's do it.
And Soundwave is like, I said what I had to say. This is a bad thing. He doesn't argue with them, right? That's what I like about Soundwave. He's loyal, but he's like, hey, we need a planet to rule after this. And it'd be like taking out all like the hydroelectric dams, nuclear power plants, basically all the power supplies like across a planet.
Yeah.
Like even a small one. And it's just like, well, I don't know what the Alpha Trion protocols do. Better shut down the entire planet. do you know what I mean? He doesn't even know what they do.
No.
He's going to take power away from the entire planet because he doesn't like what they're up to, damn it. This is the dumbest thing he does in the entire, never mind. There's a lot of dumb shit coming up. So far, this is the dumbest thing he does.
Well, and indeed, when I was watching the episode, I wasn't entirely I was under the impression that unleashing this virus will also destroy the Autobots themselves. that wasn't really clear to me. That's what I thought was going to happen, but it doesn't seem like that's what happens. It just seems like it
Mm-mm.
just takes out their equipment, basically.
Yeah, it's taking out the core processors across the planet, but indeed not just like, oh geez, we got a hard reset all these processors. It's destroying them.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
But
as we'll see
is
the
it just their
repercussions.
is it just their tech, or is it Autobots too? Like the
It's
actual.
their tech. It's the
Oh,
core
okay.
processor. So the things that make communications work, the power grid, basically. That's how I kind of understood
Oh.
it.
Oh, okay.
Because if it was the Autobots as well, that would be like, oh, hot damn, let's do it up. But it's
Let's
just the power grid.
let's commit genocide.
I mean, they're already there, which indeed, as we cut to the arc, we get a little talk with Jetfire. Because last episode, he tried to join up with the Autobots, and
Right.
he's behind bars, like digital laser bar things. And they're like, hey, what's up? And indeed, he's all like, I wanted to join you guys. No, tell us the truth. And he's like, I mean, that is the truth. And they're like,
Hey,
Optimus
but
comes through and he's like, let me talk to him. Tell
eh,
us the truth. And he's like, I I don't know why I joined up or what I was fighting for in the first place, but I know it wasn't genocide.
yeah, and
So
the Megatron that is leading the Decepticons now isn't the Megatron that I once knew. This
yeah, the
is
Megatron I knew didn't like cold, like fucking blast people through the chest, like point blank prisoners of war that were like in shackles and weaponless.
well, and indeed, Megatron wasn't even like that at the beginning of this show. Like
No,
he's fallen hard, like really fast.
we've mentioned that it progresses quickly as the stakes change for both sides. The leaders, what they're willing to compromise on changes episode to episode too. And then they're like, oh, but he could have led other Decepticons here. We can't trust him. And it's like, do you see any outside? And indeed, like
I mean,
Optimus is like, how did you find us? And he's like, never mind that. Nobody else followed me. And I'm like, no, let's go back. How did you find us?
yeah. Good point. Yeah, it's never really explained how Jetfire figured out where the Ark was.
And indeed, they just kind of like quickly bury that because Optimus is like, how did you find the Ark? And he's like, never mind that. We don't have time, but I wasn't followed, I assure you.
Yeah, he's just like, forget it.
Forget about it.
No, seriously, tell us. Don't worry about it.
Listeners, if there was like a little thing where he saw somebody like disappear into a, if there was something we missed, feel free to to let us know. But we just feel like that was kind of just conveniently fit into the plot there. But what ends up happening here is the Autobots do something monstrous that I never ever thought the Autobots would ever do.
Oh,
Let's Suicide Squad Jetfire. Put
oh,
a fucking bomb in his brain.
okay, yeah. So Jetfire is like, I assure you, I'm loyal, and to prove it, I'll let you do this thing to me. He's like, and says to Prowl, he's like, you were a cop back in the day, right?
You were a copper, right?
You were a cop over in Praxis, and he's like, and Prowl's like, yeah. He's like, so what was the term that he called
Back
it?
when I was in a slammer, I remember you used some of those bomb brains.
Yeah, they call it something. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, it's basically
like a safety protocol that basically there were so many prisoners back in my day, and not enough guards that all the prisoners had kill switches
yeah,
in
something
the
to
back
like
of their brain.
something to completely like wipe their like central processors. And
Literally kills them, yeah.
and I'm like, what? Wow, that's bizarrely unethical, especially for Autobots.
And is there even one of them that I think it's just Prowl that's like, I don't think that's a good idea, and everyone else is like,
It's
I guess
Elita.
we have to do it.
It's the eternal voice of reason in this show, Elita 1.
My
She's
girl
like,
Alita 1, she's like, that's I don't even think the Decepticons would do that. What the fuck?
She's like, this seems kind of wrong to me, but well, it is tactically sound, so I guess we better do that.
And Optimus, of all people, is like, make it so. And I'm like, Optimus Prime is cool with the brain bomb.
Yeah, Prowl, begin the procedure. Jetfire, please don't make us have to use it.
Jetfire's like, okay,
He's like, yeah, you
I'm the
won't.
one that recommended it.
I'm not gonna betray you because I don't really want to die. So
This is how I prove myself.
yeah.
Which good for him, but like, just that's what I mean by compromising values. I would never have thought Optimus Prime would be like, put the brain bomb in, kid. That way, if he gets out of line, we could just fucking murder him. Okay. And I understand what's at stake. I'm not dumb. Like, he could just fuck off and then tell Megatron, hey, guess where I found the base.
Well, yeah, and indeed, that's what that's during this whole scene. That's what all the Autobots are worried about, especially Elita 1. She's like, yeah, it's not really a good idea to work with this guy because he can just betray us and then go tell Megatron where we are.
And to back that sentiment up, nobody saw him fighting with Skywarp. Yeah,
Skywarp, yeah.
That's who he killed.
Killed, yeah. Apparently.
Nobody saw any of that, and he just kind of like showed up like limping, and he's like, hey, homie.
He succumbed to his injuries.
But like, if
Off
he was
screen.
going to
I held him in my arms as he said, stop, Jetfire. Fuck that guy. Also, he owes me $50. Also, he said I could have his Pog collection.
fuck.
50 Decepticons? You forgot late charges. That brings it up to 1 million Decepticons.
1 million Decepticons.
Pizza the Hut.
And here's the thing.
Starscream the Hut.
Here's the thing that makes that we've talked about fucking Spaceballs so much that has to be that we should cover that on Too Much Commentary. It's a little Patreon thing we do for commentary for movies, folks.
Yeah.
But it all kind of falls apart because if he found the Ark and he was going to betray them, wouldn't he just not have walked to the entrance? Would he have been like, hey, it's the Ark, and then fucked off and told already? Whatever.
I guess he could draw them out into the open. Because at this point the Ark is still cloaked.
Right. And presumably if it has power, it could like its autocannons or something could be active.
Yeah,
Maybe?
I'm just trying
Sure.
to make it work. Make it make sense in my head.
Yeah. But indeed, they strap a bomb to his brain chip.
So back at the at Decepticon HQ, Shockwave suspends the corpse of Ultra Magnus in this like purple like webbing type thing. It looks like he's like straight up like in one of those like hanging nets that you would see in a weird you would see it like it was strangely common in movies in like the 80s. People stepping into
some
those.
sort of torture.
Like you would see people like in movies like step into those nets that are like on the ground and hidden in like bushes, and then as soon as they step on them, it like pulls
I see
them
what
up.
you're saying. Yeah, some sort of like trap. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were strangely they were strangely common in movies in the 80s for some reason.
Yeah, just this like net trap thing.
Yeah. So the visual of Ultra Magnus's corpse kind of reminds me of that. Kind of looks like he's suspended in one of those, but it's they're using Ultra Magnus's like core processor to hack into the Autobot network essentially, so they can feed this virus into it, and that's what they do. It's pretty ghoulish.
They do. It is ghoulish, and it's like I just picture like Soundwave being like, Megatron, are we the bad guy? And Megatron's being like, I feel like you're like way too late to ask that question. Well, once you have this suspended, like corpse, literally Magnus's corpse.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, if anything else told you that like you're definitely the bad guys, like this visual isn't doing it for you, you're too far gone. And there's some things that happen in the background when this is happening. Bumblebee is doing an Iron Man 2, and he's like, oh my God, I have knowledge of all the past, blah, blah, blah. And you see the thing about the Allspark is it moves around, man. And they're like, what? Yeah, it moves around. And like, I'm going to find out where it's going to appear next.
And so he does.
And he does.
Yeah, okay. So
the
I missed the
forbidden
part that
desert.
the Sea of Rust is what they call it.
Yeah. And
So
"The
he's
Sea of
like,
Rust,
all right.
no Autobot has ever come back alive from it, but the Decepticons have."
And they're like, what? And Bumblebee's like, yeah, they the Seekers, they successfully mapped their way through the Sea of Rust. They can get through it, no problem.
And that's
And
why
they're like,
Jetfire comes in.
and that's where Jetfire comes in, and they're like, by God, we just happen to have the leader of the Seekers right here, right now. You notice something about Jetfire? Coincidence? I think so. You notice about Jetfire, even when he was part of the Decepticons, he has blue eyes, like the Autobots. All the Decepticons have glowing red eyes, except Shockwave, who has like a single like yellow eye. But all the other Decepticons have glowing red eyes, and all the Autobots have glowing blue eyes. Jetfire has blue eyes. So
I did not notice.
It's like he was meant to join the Autobots or something.
Yeah.
It was his destiny. It was.
You know what? That's
it was his
interesting.
density.
It was his density. And and another
little
thing
Back to the Future reference there.
And there's there's a little thing going on in the background here. We got freaking who's at the Sky Gate, the space warp,
Ratchet and
Compactor, and some people. Mirage.
Mirage, yeah, because he ends up using his powers to cloak the space bridge, which they fire up. They fire up the space bridge.
Before they do that, though, go ahead. Yeah,
I was gonna say, so they fire up the space bridge just to see that it works, and while they're doing this, like the first thing that pops into my head is like, and they see some like Seekers fly overhead. So Mirage is like, here, I'll cloak us. And they're like, no, you don't have the Energon to do it. And he's like, watch me. And so he does. But I'm like, you would think they would detect the energy signature or something of like a fucking like space portal, like opening. Okay, like a Stargate, essentially.
Here's what happens here, folks. I don't like it. One of them, I can't remember who, is like, we shouldn't boot this up. Every Seeker within like freaking comm distance is going to be like, hey, that's weird. Skybridge thingy's like, the Stargate is opening up. And Ratchet's like, well, we can't tell if it's repaired unless we boot it up. All right, everybody ready? And I'm like, no. Can we back up one fucking second? The Ark isn't ready. You don't just, we don't know if it needs more repairs unless we boot it up. It's like Optimus ordered not to fucking turn it on yet. What is going on, dude? Yeah, and Mirage wouldn't have had to do this if they listened to him.
Yeah, because Optimus even mentions, dumb move. He's like, okay, so finding the Allspark, firing up the Ark, opening the space bridge are all things that have to happen at the same time.
Like this is
one
difficult,
one right after the other. Otherwise, it's not going to work. The Decepticons will stop us. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
Ratchet and Compactor are like, boot her up, yeehaw! And I'm like, why? Nobody's going through. And I understand we don't know if it needs more repairs, but it should work. We need to see if it works for later. That doesn't really hold up because now as we go through it, surprise, surprise, Mirage can't, you said, wouldn't they be able to detect it? It's shown Mirage able to, in past iterations of Transformers, hide energy signatures. It's not just visual, it's like communication too, right? For instance, scans of him will reveal that he's actually who he's trying to pretend to be until it kind of like starts glitching out or he runs out of energy.
Right.
But yeah, it's like as he's doing this, he's running out of energy and he almost like kills himself trying to do it. Turn it off. Why is it being
right?
Turn it off? Or is it like one of those things where it's like, you know, like, oh, it costs like all this energy to turn it on, but maintaining it is low energy. And if we turn it off, we might never turn it back on again. Then why did you turn it on?
Atlantis' ZPM is almost depleted. We only have enough juice left to open the Stargate once. We can the energy of the event horizon will maintain the stable wormhole, but if we shut it off, then that's it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Maybe that. Listeners, if I haven't mentioned before, I like Stargate a lot.
Yeah, it's something like that. But then it's like,
and what I just said
why
was
did you
actual.
turn it on?
What I said was actual Stargate shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the energy of the wormhole like maintains itself for up to 38 minutes. Maintains itself, but actually dialing and establishing a stable
that takes
wormhole,
a lot of juice.
That takes a lot of energy.
And that's what's happening here. So they can't turn it off, but it's like, homies, you're gonna get people killed. And it seems like not a Ratchet move.
Also, maybe the show should just kind of explain that.
Now that you and I, like when I first watched it, I was like, oh boy, yeah, let's go. And now that I'm watching it with you and doing a legitimate journalism, some holes peppered here and there in every episode.
I do really like this show, like still, like even rewatching.
Oh, they're small, they're forgivable.
There's tons of plot holes in this show.
They're forgivable ones. They're not glaring issues. And geez, oh, right. You had said get the world spark, get the all spark, get the raw energon to power the arc.
Yep. And
turn on the sky bridge.
Yeah.
Bumblebee and who is it here? Bumblebee.
It's Bumblebee, RC, and Cog.
Yeah.
So
even Cog is like, wow, I finally get to leave the base.
So what happens here is Wheeljack is like, okay, I can launch the arc. We have enough energon to do that. But we have a sufficient amount of energon to launch the arc, but we have not enough energon to maintain the arc once we go through the space bridge. So we'll just be dead in the water once we launch.
And it's like, what do we need? And it's like, well, we need like a lot of raw energon.
And
different types of energy currency, folks.
Yeah. And Bumblebee is like, I know a guy. And they're like, oh, who is it? He's like a real scoundrel, a real son of a bitch. He's even worse than a Decepticon.
And they're like, who's worse than a Decepticon? And then it cuts to them visiting this like seedy criminal under.
I do like the moment though where they're like, I think it's Alita. It's like, I can't believe we're going to. This is madness. I can't believe we're going to barter and trade with someone who's worse than a Decepticon. And Bumblebee's like, oh, we're not bartering. We're not bartering the energon. We're stealing it.
We're stealing it, motherfuckers.
And right when he says that, I'm like, yeah.
Like now he has a drive. Like now I'm liking him. I didn't like him at all before this episode, by the way.
Yeah.
But
same.
what he started pulling me last episode when he was like, you know what? I get it now. Like just living isn't enough. Like what? I earn enough Deceptibucks to like live another like month, another year. No, things need to change. And so he was coming around, but now he's like, oh, we're stealing it. You better believe it.
Yeah.
So and indeed, the seedy criminal organization that's worse than the Decepticons is apparently a
failed clone of Soundwave, created by Shockwave. And I'm like, Well, I actually like this because this kind of, in a way, addresses narratively a what is known in the Transformers world as a redeco. It's where
Right?
Hasbro will take the mold of one Transformer, give them a new paint job, maybe give them a slightly different face, head
Slightly
mold,
different face. Yeah.
and then they'll just re-release the same figure with a different paint job, and sometime, not even all the time, but sometimes maybe like a different head mold or whatever. And
And
they'll
it's
just
like, see, folks,
and
this
they'll just
isn't Soundwave.
and this is Sound Blaster, and they'll just re-release it as another figure. Uh, the original Tigatron toy in the Beast Wars line was
It's
just
Cheetor.
was a straight up redeco of Cheetor. There's tons of redecos in Transformers, and I like the and even what is it, Ironhide and Ratchet, or like, I can't remember which one came first, but they're the same mold. They're redecos of one another. So I like this this plot point of Sound Blaster being a failed clone of Soundwave, uh because
Because it's kind of self-referential to this redeco not really selling.
exactly, yeah.
I never thought about it like that until you mentioned it just now.
That's the Transformers collector in me catching this stuff.
Worse than a Decepticon, a failed redeco. Ooh.
And here I'm kind of wondering, I'm like, what's the failure exactly? Because he's a different color?
Because he didn't sell.
Fair.
Well, as we found out, he's not like he's kind of got like a crime boss thing going on here. He's not like Soundwave at all, who's kind of like only speaks words when they're important.
Right.
Doesn't run his mouth. A man of few words, right? Very logical. Sound Blaster is very like shit talky.
I like that. So RC even says, she's like, "Wow, he really does look like Soundwave," and Bumblebee's like, "Yeah, but don't bring that up. He doesn't really like to talk about that very much.
Don't bring it up. It's a little sour."
But then Sound Blaster references Soundwave later in the episode, which I found kind of weird. It's like, you don't like to talk about the fact that you're a clone of Soundwave, but then
It's one of those things where he's trying to own it before other people bring it up. He brings it up first.
Right.
Yeah.
So
right, the Desert of Rust.
So the Bumblebee, RC, and Cog go to meet with Sound Blaster. They have their last store of processed their last like 3 vials or whatever of processed energon, and RC, he's like, "I've come to bargain." Sound Blaster's like, "Okay, take them down to the receiving bay."
Get out of here, kid! You bother me.
So they go to at the Sea of Rust. We actually see like a laser beak, or like something that looks like laser beak, out in the desert, eating the corpse of a Transformer, which
yeah,
which I thought was a funny visual.
Oh, when we join Optimus and Jetfire and
in the Sea of Rust.
In the Sea of Rust, and there's like purple lightning, and Jetfire is like, "Oh yeah, look out for the lightning.
Look out for the lightning." And then they get through.
And Alita's like, "I mean, you could have like told us there'd be lightning before the lightning started." Who's with them? It's like Chromia and Hound.
Yeah, Optimus, Chromia, Hound,
Prowl, and Jetfire.
Yes. Yeah, right. Prowl was there too.
Look at me remembering names.
Right, because Jetfire ends up saving Prowl. And
Prowl's he's the guy. He's the dude with
the kill switch. Yeah.
So he does something cool. He shoots out like chaff, like anti heat-seeking missile, like
countermeasures.
Yeah, and
I think is what they're called, countermeasures.
Yeah, and the I guess they burn hot, or it's like aluminum, or it's highly conductive, and it attracts the lightning. Right, it's a really cool visual, and kind of like carves a path through the lightning storm, so they don't all get lightninged.
Yeah,
makes sense because they're all made of metal.
Yeah, they don't all get struck by lightning and sent back to the year 1885. uh, so they get through the space lightning, and they're
He's
like,
like, oh,
"Whew,
we did it. And he's like, if you think that's bad.
yeah, whew, glad we got through that. Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet, because now we got to look out for the metal vortexes."
And even Optimus is like, the what now? And then dramatically the camera turns over and like Mad Max Fury Road, there are like tornadoes, like black and full of lightning, and just bad news bears.
Bad news bears indeed. So,
No
back
wonder nobody went in here.
back at Sound Blaster's receiving bay, the dynamic trio of
Oh yeah, they
Bumblebee.
come across a whole load of energon chunks.
Energon crystals, yeah.
Yeah, the raw energon.
Yeah.
As we are very familiar with, being that we are from planet Energon.
Yep. Although this Energon doesn't make them short out, apparently,
No.
which I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, they can just pick it up.
Yeah. They should
Yeah,
have beast modes, damn it.
They should have beast modes. Well, maybe
Bumblebee
it's
should
different.
turn into a bee.
He should turn into a bee.
A giant
There should be a
fucking
bee man. A giant fucking bee, and be like, oh, Bumblebee. Bumblebee is getting raw energon.
I think in the the live action Transformers movies, I think Shia LaBeouf actually calls Bumblebee Bee Man.
Oh. Well, shit. And what happens here? They're talking out loud, and Sound Blaster comes up and he's like, "Ha, you stupid kids. See, there's one thing, much like Soundwave. Sound Blaster, see, he's got eyes in the sky." And a little Sound Blaster version of
Laserbeak.
Laserbeak, thank you. Does he name him? They must all have different names, but
Oh,
let's name him.
I'm sure they do, yeah.
Uh
He's like, "Yeah, I was onto your ruse, see? I recognize those two Autobots. They're worth more than any Energon you could bring me. Yeah, see?"
We just wanted to lure you into a false sense of safety right next to our energy. Yeah. And I'm like, arresting them when you had like all the guards pointing guns at them probably would have been the better option. And indeed, guess what just happens? They just like shoot their way out.
Yep. Yeah, caught.
Despite being caught. Despite the fact that, by the way, when they entered, they were like scanning for weapons. All right, you're good to go.
But Cog transforms into this shoulder cannon thing.
Hell yeah.
that locks on to RC, which is pretty cool because the toy of Cog actually does that.
It's cool when some Transformers transform into a weapon that needs to be used by another Transformer, like
Right.
OG Megatron just being a fucking golden gun. A one-hit kill, just mega blaster. But yeah, and I guess what is it, Cog? He transforms into like this badass freaking like Terminator 2, like kind of giant clunky rig, like battle cannon thing.
Yeah.
Dig it.
Yeah, it like a big ass like a portable like anti-air like cannon that you strap onto your back or something like that.
It looks cool.
It's pretty rad. And they shoot their way out and they get the Energon. And back at the Sea of Rust, they're all in robot form, and they're all standing right in front of these metal vortexes. And they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And Jetfire is like, "Oh, there's a trick to navigating your way through them." But they never do whatever it is he's talking about.
He's like, "Don't worry, there's a trick to navigating them." And they're like, "Okay."
And they just
And then
stand
Prowl
there.
gets sucked into they just stand there, and Prowl gets sucked into one of the vortexes. And presumably there's so many bits of metal, there's so much electromagnetic like radiation and static caused by these. If you get sucked into these, you're either shredded apart or the energy like deactivates you, right? Like it's bad. And there's this like dramatic moment where Jetfire is like, I'm on him, and flies off and goes and saves him while everyone else is standing on the ground being like,
Good job, buddy. Hey, Prowl, hang in there.
the only one of us that can fly is coming. We'll hold down this patch of desert, but we're not getting sucked in for some reason.
For some reason.
We were all standing next to each other. I guess Prowl's lighter.
I was gonna say, so Prowl is a deluxe class figure, and the rest of them are Voyager class.
The others are just too heavy.
Yeah.
They were like, whoa, and they like moved a little bit, like a windy day. But he was like, shit. Prowl's like, shit, and got sucked up. And Jetfire grabs him, saves him again, and brings him back. And you'd think at this point, right? Because Prowl is like, holy shit, you saved me. And they're like, Optimus is like, thank you, Jetfire. And it's like, now's a pretty good time to smash the detonation device, because like the one who had it was Prowl, and he saved him.
Well, and Prowl even pulls it out. He's like, thank you for saving my life. I never thought I'd be saved by a Decepticon. It doesn't feel right for me to be holding on to this. So he goes to give it to him, but Jetfire is like, but you will, for the sake of the mission.
Sake of the mission.
And I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake.
And
so
like, I get it, but like all of them at that point could have been like, if he had let them, if he had let Prowl just get sucked in and killed and been like, see you fuckers, and flown away, he could have single-handedly defeated like 4 of the Autobots and then like went back. Like,
yeah,
he's obviously he's waiting for the perfect moment. Like, he's not trying to capture any of you alive.
Right.
But
yeah. So whatever this once again, whatever this trick to navigating the metal vortexes was supposed to be, they don't actually do it, but they still survive.
But everything ends up okay.
Everything ends up okay.
So why even mention there's a trick
right?
to it?
Plot holes, like I said, plot holes. So they end up
if it was an RPG, like a tabletop RPG, it's like, okay, roll, I don't know, roll search.
Yeah.
Oh, all of you rolled high enough except Prowl. He gets sucked off into one, I guess.
So
yada yada, the best part.
From there, they happen across this big chasm, and Optimus is like, I recommend caution, Autobots, and then they just fucking leap down into it.
Another thing, and he's like, caution, Autobots, I have a bad feeling about this. And indeed, like, Prowl's like, what do you mean? It's as if the Allspark calls out to me a warning. Anyways, fuck it, let's go. And they jump into the pit. And it's like, well, I mean, you don't need to tell us to be cautious. We're jumping into a creepy pit.
So Optimus and the Autobots leap down into this chasm, and they're like, Optimus is like, whoa, I got a bad feeling about this. And it's as if the Matrix itself is telling me that this is a bad idea, bro. It's a bad idea.
And Prowl's like, oh, so like, what should we do? And Optimus is like, YOLO! And he like, they all jump into this giant dark pit full of unstable energon crystals. Something's going on here.
It looks like a bunch of energon crystals, yeah. And then zombie transformers.
That's the word of the day. That triggers the background noise.
Zombie transformers. And they start getting attacked. Chromia gets her fucking arm ripped off. And
yeah, the first time I was watching this, I thought I thought she was just like surrounded and like killed.
I think she makes it, but yeah, well, she's disarmed.
They go up, and this is
they disarm the sharpshooter.
Haha. They rip her goddamn arm off, and they start getting slowly surrounded. They all look like Decepticons that must have gotten lost and somewhere and lost their mind. And there's this part where I'm like, you guys have guns. And Optimus kind of looks at the others, and I'm like, you guys have guns. They're slowly shambling towards you like they're zombies. Shoot them. And then Optimus is kind of like being cornered away from the others. He kind of looks at them and then goes, and like puts up his dukes, and I'm like, you have guns. You don't
Right.
fight zombies with your fists. You guys have guns. What happened to the guns? I swear that you guys had guns, right? Now, if they had said, hey, hold your fire, there's so much energon crystals in this, there could be a negative reaction and a huge explosion, and we could not make it, or we could lose the Allspark. That would make sense to me. But instead, Optimus is all like, all right, put them up. And that's how that that scene ends.
Mm-hmm. And indeed, that's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, what do we do? We do a thing here.
So here on Too Much Energon, we rate episodes of stuff on the Too Much Energon scale, which ranges from not enough energon to a sufficient amount of energon to too much energon. It's basically bad, okay, good. Cal, what are you rating this episode?
Despite the little things here or there that I'm like, that doesn't make sense. What do you mean there's a way through? Whatever. It's minor enough, and there's so much interesting. It's a very dense episode that it does go into too much energon for me. That it's moving the plot, there's character development, too much energon. I actually really liked it.
Same. Lots going on here, lots of plot holes, but that's just a thing with this show. But still, overall, love this episode, Too Much Energon. And that has been episode 87 of Too Much Energon. Best way to support the show, go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. You've heard the spiel before, so I'm not going to do it again. Just go check that out. Patreon.com/lasercomb. Follow us on Facebook, Facebook.com/lasercomb, or you can follow the show on Twitter @TooMuchEnergon, or me @lasercomb. Cal, where can they find you?
And I'm @NeoCal on Twitter, NEO_KAL.
We'll be back next week with episode 88 of Too Much Energon, where we will be talking about the final chapter of War for Cybertron Siege. And until then, I've been one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
And I'm NeoCal.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week, and till all are one.
Till all are one, baby. Pew, pew, pew.